Welcome to Your Health.
Follow this diet to reverse insulin resistance and diabetes in 2 weeks. Do you want to learn more about the insulin resistance diet because you think you're insulin resistant? Well, you're in the right place. Insulin resistance affects a large proportion of American population interest of the world too. So its presence often goes unnoticed and unchecked for a long time. In adults, insulin resistance can progress to pre-diabetes and if left untreated, type 2 diabetes. Now, contrary to popular belief, insulin resistance can be reversed by following an insulin resistance diet and does not always result in pre-diabetes or type 2 diabetes. It could be a very useful early warning indicator to know that you're insulin resistant, prompting you to assess your lifestyle to see where the changes can be made right. Well, today we are going to talk about these things. Number 1. What causes insulin resistance and how does it develop? Number 2. Symptoms of insulinresistance to look out for. Number 3. Dietary approaches to insulin resistance. And we're going to talk about glycemic index as well. And we're going to talk about all the foods that are low in glycemic index. You're going to talk about medications and homeopathic treatments for insulin resistance as well. And finally, we ain't going to talk about reversing insulin resistance with the right diet approach and the exercise. Have you downloaded the Sugar MDF yet? If not, you are missing out on some great resources. Living your best life. Remember to subscribe to our channel for as well. Now, insulin resistance and how to overcome it. Reversing insulin resistance, regaining energy, controlling blood sugar cravings, and lowering the risk of many lifestyle-related problems all start with minor lifestyle changes. So what causes it? Right, well, belly fat or on your waist. There is something called visceral and also subcutaneous fat as well, but the visceral fat is found in abdominal cavity. Insulin resistance occurs when your fat cells especially refuse to respond to insulin, preventing sugar from entering to your cells. Now, following that, your body attempts to correct itself by producing more insulin in order to stabilize your blood sugar level. Now, as you know, insulin is a hormone that regulates the uptake of glucose by cells, so it's not a bad hormone, right? You need it, it's just too much of it. When you have excessive insulin, then it becomes damaging, right? So insulin is produced by the pancreas of all types of diabetics, in most of them, right, but their body doesn't respond to it properly, so some of them even require insulin injections, although they make their own insulin. So we have to find ways to make sure your body can actually use that insulin correctly, especially before you become diabetic. Here are some symptoms of insulin resistance to look out for. So if you're unaware that you're insulin resistant, you may want to look for something called acanthosis and agricans. These are some brownish blackish marks on your skin around your neck. It could be under your armpits and so forth. It's called acanthosis in agricans. This happens when the skin darkens. You may actually even see some skin tags in the similar areas as well, which is another sign of insulin resistance. If you are getting to feel like you need to urinate a lot, you're feeling extremely tired, you start getting tingling and numberless in your extremities, you may be already diabetic. If the pancreas produced enough insulin despite the resistance, most people will have no symptoms except the things that we talked about, and not everybody will have the acanthos and snare cans or skin tags and so forth. So it is not a bad idea to look at your blood sugar levels when you have a blood work done and see where you are standing. Now, the good news is eating the right foods can actually reverse the process, and a diet, for example, high in unprocessed whole foods, is the essential key thing for increasing your insulin sensitivity or decreasing your insulin resistance. So if you continue to eat white bread, cakes, cookies, ice cream, all that goodies, right, highly processed foods, you're not going to be unlocked. Your insulin resistance will continue to pile up and you're going to end becoming a diabetic if you're not already so. Eating food high in saturated fats such as sausage, bacon, cheeses, butter, things like that, especially if they are coming from animals that are not grass-fed, you're not going to do well. If you're not going to do well if you're eating foods high in glycemic index, you're going to be in trouble. So you have to choose foods that are low in glycemic index, especially when it comes to fruits. Fruits are okay as long as they are low in glycemic index, right? Glycemic index determines how fast those Carbohydrates turn into sugar in your blood, so with a local glycemic index around 55 or below, you're going to digest and absorb and metabolize the carbs more slowly, so your body will have time to deal with the carbohydrates and will not secrete too much insulin at time, and it will also help with weight loss and lower the risk of type 2 diabetes, of course, because your beta cells will not be working as hard now. If you have obese children around you, it could be your kids, your grandkids. Again, the perfect diet for them would be a local glycemic index carbohydrates, because it is very hard to tell kids to donate carbs. It's just they're just not going to listen, right? So, but you can alternate. You can say, hey, instead of maybe. The grapes, maybe you can go for an apple or something like that. You can alternate. Or better example would be, instead of going for a candy, go for grapes. Grapes even better than the candy, so you just need to give those options to obese children so they do not become diabetic. Now, whole fruits have a lots of fiber in them, right? So that also helps regulate your blood sugar and weight, especially before you become diabetic. Many want to eat fruit frequently in small amounts so that your body can help to deal with toxins. That your body will help time to produce enough insulin to deal with these high fiber local glycemic index foods, as long as you watch your portion size, which is probably like your palm size. So anything that fits into your palm should be good to go for it. For a portion, you can eat pomegranates, which I love in the season. They help with free radical damage. A lot of fruits do, right? And you can safely consume them because they have so much biochemicals in them. Even grapes contain something called resveratrol, which is a phytochemical that influences your insulin secretion and action. So if you're not a diabetic, eating 10 grapes, or even with diabetes, eating like 10 pieces of grapes is not going to cause significant problems. Strawberry is a great local glycemic index fruit. For example, I highly recommend it to all of my diabetics. It can also boost your immunity, it can fight cancer, it can improve your metabolism, so you can burn more calories, and of course help lose weight as well. Guava is low in glycemic index. Sometimes people ask about that. Constipation. It will be better if you are suffering from constipation, as a diabetic. Guava has a very high fiber content, so cherries can be a little problem, but the blueberries, they're high in anthocyanins, which boost your insulin synthesis by up to 50%. There's even hope that the anthocyanin will one day become a basis for some novel diabetes therapies. So papaya, right now, people ask about that too. All those fancy fruits, it has a lot of antioxidants. It's an excellent choice for diabetics. If you want to go for it, you live in Florida, you'll find it everywhere. Texas, you will find it. So papaya has been even shown to improve your longevity by preventing excessive cell damage. Now, how about oranges? Well, there is flavonols in there and some phenolic acid that has been shown to be significant in preventing a diabetes as well. Citrus fruits inhibits glucose uptake and prevent glucose from being absorbed. So that's why a lot of you are taking C, hoping that it helps, right? But again, too much of it. If you're drinking orange juice, that's not going to be really helpful for you, so you have to consume vegetables. That's a lot of people say, I hate vegetables. Well, don't hate vegetables. I don't hate about them. They are the best source of vitamins and minerals. They are low in carbohydrates. They're high in fiber. Your body requires nutrients to perform its functions, so you have to have them, unless you love the liver, which a lot of peoples can't even stand the smell. You have to have vegetables to vitamins and minerals, right? Or you just eat liver a couple times a week, then you'll be good too. For if you're just strictly carnivore. But oxidative stress is real. It can damage your cells, your muscle, your fat tissue, your nerves. It can cause problems in insulin secretion. But the vegetables with various colors, they contain a lot of antioxidants and vitamins and minerals that then negate the effects of toxins that comes in the food or generated by your body. For example, spinach and kale are two examples of leafy greens which are super high in vitamin A, B, C, K. Red peppers, tomatoes and other vegetables, they're high in polyphenols. Radishes, cabbage, again, they are super high in anthocyanins. They help reduce your insulin resistance, so eating carbs, if in moderation. Sweet potatoes, squash can all help boost thigh insulin production levels or health of your beta cells. Mushrooms, garlic, onions, these are great antioxidants to help fight against diabetes as well. Consuming dairy products, believe it or not, also help reduce the risk of developing type 2 diabetes if you are consuming like raw cheese, or if you are consuming dairy from grass-fed animals, 100 grass-fed. Preferably, then you're in luck, because the calcium, the vitamin D, the dairy fat, especially something called transpalmitoloic acid, they have been proposed actually to help prevent the mechanisms causing the diabetes. So transparmatolic acid, a fatty that is found in full-fat data products coming from grass-fed animals, really can significantly reduce the risk of insulin resistance and insulin-related conditions that are typically diabetes and pre-diabetes if you're going for a low carbohydrate diet. A full plate will include high-fiber vegetables, some protein and unsaturated fats. So what are the fatty acids that are monounsaturated and polyunsaturated? Well, olive oil, avocados, seeds, almonds and salmon are excellent sources, and if you cannot go with the organic grass-fed beef or poultry, then it's better to stick with lean cuts of those meats as well. So beans and legumes are also important. They actually help with the insulin resistance. They have lots of fiber and polyphenols in them as well. Chickpeas, black beans, lentils, they are all great for insulin resistance. Nuts and seeds are also great for healthy fats. They provide magnesium, fiber and a lot of protein without consuming a lot of carbohydrates as well, and they definitely do not cause a dramatic increase in your blood sugars at all. So nuts are a great source for protein and fat that are plant-based. You solid want to go for the raw or options, because sometimes you buy those nuts and they're so processed that there's nothing good left in them. As you know, cardiovascular disease is super common in type 2 diabetics, so make sure that salmon is in your diet or fed efficient, and mackerel and things like that. Omega-3 fatty acids are extremely important to prevent diabetes-related heart problems, heart failure, stroke. Again, fish that are high in omega-3 content are salmon, mackerel, herring, sardines, and tuna. They're good choices. Now, what about medications? A lot of peoples will say, you know what, this is too much dieting, just give me the medication. Well, there's two medications that can help you: metformin or pioglitazone or Actos. In this case, they help with insulin sensitivity, but they also have side effects, right? So if you're looking for a natural alternative, would say try super berberine, which has dehydroberberine that is 5 times more absorbable than the berberine, along with the concentrated Ceylon cinnamon, which are proven to be effective for insulin-resistant and pre-diabetic patients. Tell now, how do you test it if you're insulin resistant? Well, let's jump to another topic, because you know we want to keep you awake here, right? So you can actually test for it. You can basically do a test for insulin levels as a fasting insulin level and a glucose level, and then you can calculate something called HOMA score, which can give you a good idea of your insulin resistance even before pre-diabetes or diabetes is diagnosed, which is starting a day around 5.7. So the higher the HOMA score, the lower your body's sensitivity to insulin. So, or if you're fasting glucose over 100 or Tourette over glucose after a glucose tolerance test over 140 will suggest pre-diabetes and insulin resistance. And of course, if you are told that you're insulin resistant, and you should try to keep your waist circumference at or below 40 inches for men and 35 inches. For women, you have to maintain a regular exercise. As I always tell you, if you really want to reverse insulin resistance in the long term, you have a lot of exercise videos. So just YouTube it, exercise and workout, and will help you tremendously, because a lot of people think that exercise is a big hefty task, but it can have very small changes in your life and you can have a big impact. So that federal on your ways is a primary contributor of insulin resistance, which we call as the visceral fat, right? These fat cells squid hormones into a bloodstream that cause inflammation, which causes insulin resistance, which eventually leads to diabetes. So as a result, make sure you have a consistent exercise routine and an infusionally sound insulin resistance diet a priority. Increase the amount of nutrient-dense foods are consumed in the first half of the day. Have a very light dinner or no dinner if you really want to beat that insulin resistance. If you are having a local glycemic index, carbs and a lot of healthy fats and some protein, you're going to have a balanced diet with some exercise. Before you know it, insulin resistance will be gone again. You have to have fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, high fiber foods, dairy products with 100 grass-fed animals, and healthy fats like olive oil and so forth. Even 5% reduction in your total body weight will help dramatically to improve your insulin resistance. So don't think that you have to lose like 50 pounds or 100 pounds to get rid of the insulin resistance. You may be able to do so by just losing 5 to 10% of your body weight, and the best way to do it is intermittent fasting, having a high-fat carbs meals, and again eating once a day if you can. That's your best way to go. And if you're going to choose a meal to eat, I would say eat early in the day and skip the meals in the later part of the day, and always stay hydrated and make sure that majority of your meals are plant-based and they're high in fiber. You have to always avoid simple carbs, no matter how quickly accessible they are. You rather fast than touching those carbs, right? So don't do that. And if you by mistake eat something like that, you just have to get UPO and move and burn that off. Even simple things like going for a walk after eating or taking stairs instead of elevator, they can make a lot of difference. I see when I go to work, I'm the only one taking the stairs, and I see all those overweight workers, they just don't, okay, well, don't complain. Because you're not taking the stairs right. So again, people wants to have shortcuts, so there's nothing called shortcut in life. You really want to achieve somethings, you have to take the long way sometimes to get to where you want to go to be able to achieve what you want to achieve. So I hope you all the success and best of luck, and thank you for watching. Please subscribe, like and leave a comment, and I will see you in the next video.